our pain points are enemy sweet spots, right? So, and clearly, if we look at the kind of, from our research, the different types of falsehoods that perpetrated in other countries, it is clearly reflective of the social, political, and cultural milieu in that particular country context. So in the case of Singapore, as we have suggested in our submission, it will be issues pertaining to race, language, and religion, and perhaps national security, given that Singapore is a global hub. So that is one possible pain point. Do you have anything to add?
I guess with increasing immigration, like you see in the situation in Germany, so tensions among the locals and immigrants, that could be another possible pain point for us as well.
I just want to sketch out 3 purposes I think any legislation would need to have. One is to punish and deter. The second is it needs to prevent the spread of online falsehood. This can be by way of a removal process, or it could be by way of preventing or restricting access to the falsehood. And the third are remedial consequences. That is to say, any legislation needs to deal with the serious consequences by way, as I mentioned earlier, a clarification or an apology.
I think there's a sense in Singapore of type of invulnerability toward these type of threats, because Singapore is so small, it can basically block any sort of external foreign media interference. It can basically identify these type of attacks. And I believe that this is not necessarily correct, because that type of crisis doesn't have to necessarily come from within Singapore. But Singapore can be drawn into crisis outside, externally, where Singapore's reputation, Singapore's credibility, whether economic, financial, any sort of issue that would threaten sort of Singapore's international standing could be challenged.